Welcome to another episode of Morning Coffee Review. As always, this is about you, the community. So feel free to ask any questions around Bluebeam or the whole AEC industry as a whole. So if you're looking for other solutions, feel free to ask. We are on our basic series. We may or may not do number 3 today. And today's topic is all about markups. So that is what we'll be talking about today, maybe. I did pose the question if you all want to learn how to use some type of large language model to create custom stamps. We could pivot and deviate and do that one today so that you can customize any of the stamps that you want. But if we do that, I need a snippet of someone's example so that we can go through and create that stamp together. But welcome. And we did have a first question. So that was from Sammy talking about TrueType fonts versus SHX fonts. So we'll go right into review. So if I go through and I believe open up this PDF set, I think this has some font issues sometimes. You could typically navigate through first. Great comment, Doug. You can always start with optical character recognition. Typically, you would want to run this first, detect vertical text. I think that's pretty much it. What type of drawing is it? You could do tables and forms for yours, Sammy, since you had a forms issue. Sammy was trying to export out data. So if I go and look over here, like a schedule, if I wanted to export this out, which I know for a fact, back in the day, I didn't use the actual font. This is a line over a 0, which you can right click in Revit to get a 0 line over it. So we'll just do this one, but you can essentially go File, Export, and what I could do is Excel document in a region of Excel. And I can export this out to my desktop here. We'll save. Don't think I've done this workflow in a little bit since I've deleted stuff off my desktop. And it works in Excel. You know, I will say this does come out better than it used to. I mean, it's at 100%. This used to come out smaller, but the font is recognizable. So again, right, I can't come in here and edit the font yet, but you can go and hit PDF content, edit text, and if I go here, it's going to tell me what that font is. So this font is based off of Windows-based font, and if your Windows-based font doesn't have this type of font, you can't go and change the font. So let me double click, or I guess hit escape to get out. Let me put the chat over here since we have some chat stuff. Oh, that's just the AI note. Cool. So where is your Windows-based fonts? Where did I put the Windows-based fonts here? So here's my Windows-based fonts. And I don't know if you just drag and drop your fonts into here. It probably... I'm not a Windows 11 user, to be honest. And the old Windows, you were just able to drag and drop, but I'm assuming I can go and find the fonts also through my File Explorer. I know someone will comment in, oh, drag and drop fonts. Here we go. Look at that. Pretty self-explanatory. So you can go and Google the font type that you need. Hopefully it is a TrueType font, because that's what Windows works off of. And that's what Revu works off of. Notoriously in the industry, we used very early on in the AutoCAD era SHX fonts, and those are outdated and don't really work in our environment anymore. So you shouldn't be using SHX fonts because that's the same issue if you're using Revit. So if you're moving from a 2D platform into a 3D platform, Revit has those same issues as well. But here's your TrueType fonts right here. You can drag and drop new ones in here if you need to as well. So just being aware of that. So hopefully that helps. Can't recognize the font. That's probably your font issue of conversion into Excel as well, because Excel works off of Windows-based fonts too, which is TrueType fonts versus SHX fonts. Let me do a little history here. When was type fonts versus SHX fonts created? I didn't mean to click that. Okay, so TrueType fonts, TTFs, were first introduced in 1991, which was launched on the Mac system for Apple. That's kind of wild that we adopted TrueType fonts when it was an Apple-based product. But anyways, allowing for scalable fonts that could be displayed on various sizes without loss of quality. SHX fonts, shaped-based fonts, were primarily font type used in AutoCAD. Yep, for many years before the introduction of TTFs in 1994. And this is where Matt would make the typical comment of, Michael, how old were you then? I was right, probably around 3. Was the release of AutoCAD R13. So this reshaped, so R13 reshaped that era, I'm assuming. This marked a significant shift in the font landscape. So there you go. So again, we use TTFs, TrueType fonts. We no longer use SHX fonts. Well, I wouldn't say we no longer. Some people still use it because they want their specific font type. So when you go and look at a printed document set, typically, people want a specific type. And so this is what I've always said, right? Construction documents are the fingerprint of a firm. You create construction documents a specific way to deviate yourself from others in the industry. And some folks took a lot of time to get the specific types of fonts that they preferred. And those fonts typically out in the industry were SHX fonts. So little history there. So if you're getting something that want to export out like this, meaning your table of data, it's probably because the fonts are wrong. Hopefully that answered your question. Any other questions before we move on? I'll let you think and ponder and type, but while that's happening, are we wanting to go over markups? Because that was a topic. Or do we want to learn custom stamps? I guess I should probably post when we're doing the custom stamps one. But I do have my, well, I don't yet, but I need to pull up my chat for scripts. How long ago did I do that one? There it is. So I have it up. We can go through that, or our topic today, which our topic today is going through and talking about markups. So the outline for today was, let's see, core markups. We're going to talk about properties for consistency and speed. We'll talk about group and alignment, so how specific groupings happen within your markups. We'll talk about flattening, and we'll talk about some real workflows, and then wrap it up. If no one comments, then we'll jump into our topic today. Okay, so let's go through and talk about navigation. No, that's not our. That was last week's as I scroll through my list. Okay, so we're going to talk about markups. So we're going to go through and talk about some of the simplicity of where markups started in comparison to other solutions, because majority of folks use Revu like other PDF solutions, especially when they move over and transition into here. So we'll go through and talk about specific markups that you can go through and utilize. Typical workflow, if we were going to go through and make some type of change here, would be a revision cloud. And that revision cloud would then maybe have some type of note feature associated to it. So you can go through and make your revision cloud, and then folks would typically go through and use the arrow key. The arrow key would be then to point to that revision cloud, because this arrow would essentially attach to some type of comment, right? So we are going to change this from a C4 to a C3. I think that's all we're going to do. So this would essentially, and Alt-Z is the hotkey, by the way. So remember we talked about speed and simplicity through hotkeys. The hotkey to auto-assign, maybe you wanted a box around it. See how the extension goes over. Now, the auto-size text box can happen automatically. You don't even need to hit Alt-Z. I'll show that automatic feature, but if you hit Alt-Z, it auto-sizes the text box. It's also up here in what I call the dynamic options bar, which dynamically changes for whatever markup you're in. Now, you can have that auto-size text box for callouts and text by going to Review. Then you have Preferences here. And then under Preferences, I'll move this camera over as I'm realizing. I switched my mic location because I built a new desktop this last weekend, and first time building my own PC, by the way, from scratch. So it has a bunch of lights and stuff, and my mic used to sit like this, and the arm used to extend the mic over, but now I'm having to lean into the mic because I want to see the lights, right? If you get RGB lights, you got to see them. Hey, all, this is good info that I really want to get into. Where do I get these recordings of these sessions? Yep, so all of the recordings are on YouTube. So I'll jump over to there, but let me finish this before we do that, because everyone knows me. We'll go down a rabbit hole and I'll forget where we were. So I just forgot. We were talking about auto-sizing. Okay, so tools, and then you have this auto-size text box and callouts. So right here is that to automatically happen. Now, some people have this checked, some people don't, but this will be so you don't have to do the Alt-Z or this command here, which is auto-size text box right here. So recordings. Okay, so recordings, you can go to tab. We'll go to YouTube. This might pull up. Hold on. For some reason, yesterday when I was in here. So I have a vidIQ account for my personal stuff. I don't know if I want to show that. Let me try and scroll down. I'm sorry. It's auto-signing me into my vidIQ account, which I don't want to do. Sign up for free. How do I sign out? That's fine. We'll just move down. I just don't want to show data and analytics behind things that you probably shouldn't see unless you pay for vidIQ. Okay. So here it is. So if you go to YouTube ATG USA, I'll post this in the chat. Just be aware, Teams has this lovely thing of recordings that makes it at 720p, and there's nothing you could do to change it. That's a bandwidth thing, so you're aware. Anyways, if you go to that link, they're all on YouTube. So there's 261 videos, but you can go. I haven't been watching these shorts lately, and I guess Justin has just been on the short game here lately. That's awesome. But yeah, so you can go to our YouTube channel here, and they've all been playing. I appreciate the shorts. Keep them coming, Mr. Justin. So Justin Roberts is our marketing, one of our marketing folks, and he does our video editing. MySpace. I got to go watch these. But yeah, you can go and check them out on YouTube. So hopefully that helps. Okay, so back to it. So instead of going through and using 3 different markups to accomplish one thing, Revu is built for what we do. So you do have the text, you do have the arrow, you do have things like a rectangle, which, by the way, the newest update of Revu, and I checked a little bit earlier, there are no updates. Oh, let me give you another update. we will be able to announce pricing for Macs. If you go back and watch one of the old videos, I didn't know the pricing at the time. I made a theoretical tinfoil hat pricing estimate, and I'm not going to confirm nor deny if I was right or wrong. But we'll be able to announce the exact pricing for Bluebeam Max in March, apparently. So I'm getting word that we can, but go back and watch that video. I think that's the line. Yeah, the line I'm going to ride. Okay. So this was an update, by the way, which it used to be you can only convert corners. Why can't I do it on this one? Is it only the poly round corner? I'm assuming I thought it was also the rectangle, but you can't. But it's this. So you have the poly line, which is weird. They only put it in the poly line, but whatever. So you can right click on the corners now, and you can round. So it used to be an arc, and the arc was very complex to change the angles. But this now you can do is round a corner. So if you are an AutoCAD user, it's like the fillet command. So this was a new update, by the way. You should all be going through and being on review. Check updates. I don't think I have any because they haven't updated it since October, which I just went and looked. This is review 21.8. By the way, Bluebeam Revu 20 is going to reach its end of life in June, maybe July. I don't remember if they posted the time, but in June, if you are a Revu 20 user, Studio Sessions is going away completely. You already lost support from Bluebeam. Did you lose support? They announced an end of sale, which I thought it meant an end of support. So if you're a Revu 20 user, you need to be in Revu 21 to get all of these updates. But in June, July, if you were using Studio Sessions or projects, that is going away. Okay. So going back forward, though, you do have this ability to make singular markups, which I don't prefer. Bluebeam is built for what we do again. So you have this option to use what's called a Cloud Plus or K for the hotkey for that one. Ooh, I don't know where I was going with that markup, but you can encompass the entire area if I don't scroll down. You can encompass the entire area here, and then you can make your call out, which would be the C. Yes, should have my cap locks on. C3, Alt Z for the hotkey for that. And there you are. So this would be that workflow. Now, again, depending on what you do, you could also go through and use the call out symbol instead of the text with the call out. You can go through and place that. So once my Teams controls moves away, there you are. So now you can come over here, which I just double clicked. So now you can come over here and do C3. Oh, I have cap locks on. There you go. Alt Z for the hotkey. There you are. Instead of using text and an arrow. So being aware that there are markups specifically for our workflows as you're going through, and then you can customize. So if you don't like the open arrow, which some folks don't, so if you want to go through and use the dynamic options bar, you can start customizing the way your markups look, and we want to fill that with a red, Alt Z. We want this one to be filled, not the overall text. Okay. This is modular. You can also right click and do an add leader. So you can add multiple leaders. You can also use I think it's the control button. It is the alt button. Is it control? Oh, the alt button doesn't work on this keyboard, so I have to use this one. I think is it alt or is it control? Did they change that? It used to, is it shift? No. You used to be able to add the leader through control or alt. I wonder if that's changed. Let's see. I mean, that is the call out. So maybe that changed because I'm holding control over the node. and it's not giving me the plus symbol when it pops up. It used to, where this arrow is right here, it used to give you the plus symbol. It's shift, okay. But now, there we go. You have to click it. Shift looks like it's cycling, but it doesn't. You have to then click it. Okay, thank you. So it's shift. The reason why I was using control or alt, those also interact differently. So when you go up to the ellipse button before, and it can't be from tools, markups, ellipse, you have to use it from your toolbar menu. This interacts differently as well. So if I hold alt before I press the ellipse, you'll get a radius button. Nope. Okay. Is it control as well, or is it shift as well? It's shift as well, I'm going to assume. I'm not going to look at the chat yet. Hold on. Nope. Hold on. That's why the alt button doesn't work on my keyboard. So I've been sitting here. My home computer alt button is broken. So 1 second. There you go. I have to use the right alt button. So as I sat there for 5 minutes, yes. Now this does the radius versus your ellipse. So the ellipse does top left to bottom. Now if you hold the alt command prior to pressing it, it uses it. Okay, so there we are. Yes, Doug is also teaching a session. Is that, how long have you been? I think you've taught like 3 recently, haven't you, Doug? Doug's been on a mission teaching a bunch of classes, so make sure, webinars. So make sure you check those out. Okay, so we talked about that. Here's also a couple of other ones, the highlight command. So H for the hotkey for that. And if anyone else has anything, by the way, this is all about building a community. So feel free to post anything you want if you're shouting out or pushing additional ones. Yeah, you were on, that's what it was. It was you chapter 2, okay. 2 weeks. Then in 2 weeks as well. Okay. So he's on another one for the communities. Join the communities. Oh, I thought that was, yeah. So that is a community show. Okay. So then there's highlight. So you have this little key that shows up when you're near text. Now you can bypass that and hold the, let me see. Was it the shift? This is going to be, I'm going to need to get a new keyboard because it's going to definitely upset me that I can't change it between those two. There it is. It's control. Okay. So there's alt that changes the ellipse. There's shift. I don't know why they make it so many different keys. There's shift to add it a leader. Then there's control to change. Come on, just make it all one similar hotkey for interactions. You don't need to confuse everybody. There is the control button for when you're near text so that you can highlight a specific area versus using the automatic feature, which is selecting text, okay? So you can see the interaction changes. You have the little line that you can go through and then highlight text when you're near text. You hold control to highlight something that isn't the text near the text. Let's get into what happens if you hold Alt Shift together. Okay, what happens? Alt, I can't, so I have to go to this part of my keyboard, Alt Shift. I don't know what happens here. I just highlighted everything, Control Z. Or shift and control. Okay, shift. Do I do shift first and then control? With what? The highlight? Shift, control. No, that's just shift, control, shift. Nothing. Probably is for something. Okay. Yeah, we're done with the hotkeys. It's just unfortunate that this control doesn't work because, I mean, this alt button doesn't work on my keyboard because then I can't do all that. I had to go over to this side. They should just make it all alt. Like alt should be the interaction for everything because then you don't have to worry about people trying to remember like me when I'm not in this every single day in terms of workflow specific. Okay, so moving on. We talked about highlight, we talked about poly, we talked about line. Oh, the one thing I wanted to show, because I saw somebody make a comment about it and how it changed their workflow. And by the way, you can always use wide selects down here in the bottom view bar or the navigation bar. You can wide select. So if I want to delete all these, you can. There we go. So now the other command that we're going to go through and do was the typewriter. So I saw this on the internet because someone didn't know about this tool. So you can do text, which is just text on here, and you have to like encompass an area, and then it stays within the boundary that it's in. The other tool is going to be the typewriter tool, and this is really meant for long form text. So like if you're keynoting something, that is what this is. And then you can do like a return whenever you're ready. That's what the typewriter tool is meant to be. And again, customize your markups, dynamic options bar here at the top. If I wanted this one, and there's a reason why I'm doing all this now, because we're going to be able to reuse them later on. So if you wanted to, you can go through and change the way this looks to be reused later on. Okay, so we went there. And then there's also the note. I don't really use this one, but this is because you can, how do I want to state this? What you do in review is built off of metadata to PDFs. And why do I want to keynote that? We'll keynote that because of two things here. And I'm going to make a comparison and contrast. So give me 2 seconds. Not on my, I thought I am. Why isn't this showing my bookmarks? Oh, I updated to Windows 11, folks. And that's why my vidIQ is showing up on my home computer. I upgraded to Windows 11. And now it saves every tab taskbar out to my work computer. So like I have Dynamo, I have dashboard for my mailer stuff. I have Premiere Pro stuff in here, and it just saved my bookmarks. That is pretty wild. It saves. So these were my work bookmarks, and these are my at-home bookmarks, and then manage bookmarks. That's pretty wild. Okay. I probably don't want that, so I'm going to sign out. Manage. We'll do that later. Sign out of Chrome. Thank you. Go back, plus, cool. All right, so we'll go back to ACC, and this is what I wanted to show, markups on a PDF as a PDF, which is a little bit different of a workflow, just so you're all aware. So in Forma data management, so if all of you didn't know, Autodesk made a change to some of their nomenclature for their solutions. So Docs, formerly known as Autodesk Construction Cloud, and in there you had a module called Docs, changed to Forma data management. And if you weren't aware how this is all playing out in the ecosystem, is Forma used to be a solution. It's now called Forma Site Design, which is more of a SD tool for site. So you're able to bring in site, get site analysis, look at that information, great. Now they pulled the name out of that and are using it as a title, I guess you would say. Anything with the Forma title will be interconnected data. That's what the mantra was. And it wasn't really spoken about when they said that. They said they're just changing it. It's not going to change their pricing of that solution at the current state, because we all know typical increase year over year. But anything with the Forma brand will be interconnected and data-centric around Forma data management, which is and used to be formerly known as Docs. I have the dynamic preferences set. Okay, I'll get to your question in a second, Bob, as I'm done explaining this. So in that ecosystem, you have Docs, and Docs does have markups. I'm going to show you the difference between the way other PDF solutions markup PDFs, and then I'll show you the way that Bluebeam uses it to markup PDFs. So I have this PDF in here. This is just the wildest thing. If I come into here, this is why people love Bluebeam, to make markups. So in Review, even web-based application, it's marking up PDFs as a PDF and saving data to the PDF. If I come into here and I make markups, great, I'm indicating things, you know, we'll do a call out. Hello, I don't like how these markups work. And I bet you I would get used to it if I did them all the time. And this isn't a knock. It's just, this is how all PDF solutions work. And I'm just showing one of the workflows that you all are probably using or maybe using. So again, I'm not shaming a solution, safe harbor statement. I am just showing some reasons of why PDFs are different in the way that you're leveraging them. You may be leveraging them. So now if I go over here, I made these markups, great. I want to share all these markups to somebody, great. Let's download. Oh, but let's sync this version. So you can sync markups to AutoCAD. Anyone know if there's a save button? Like, I know if I hit exit, do I publish a new version here? Submit for review. See, it's only going to build sheets. I don't want it to go there. I don't want to go into my specs. I just want it to update. And this may be a workflow thing where I just don't think I understand completely, but it should theoretically create a new version, right? I just want to publish a new version of this. I don't want to, because I'm assuming that's probably why, as I'm doing this live. Anyways, if I go back into here, my markups are live. Great. Is there really no save? I don't want to do this. And if I publish it, I'm not publishing it to sheets. I want to just over it here. It should just save. Okay. Thank you, Ben. Yes, that's what I mean. It's like, it's saving, but there's no new version. Okay, so this is what I'm trying to show is when I download this, and this is my question why I got held up here. It says source file, but I made markups, right? And there's no publish feature, which typically models you publish a new version so you can see them in here, but it just overwrites them in this location that it's at. But let's say I downloaded it. My caveat is that it's saying download source file. So I'm going to assume somewhere it will have the ability to publish it local to this new version. So it embeds these on there. But as of right now, as I searched, there isn't a way. So now when I go here and I go and open this one, see, it's the 2. There's no markups. Completely different mindset of uploading PDFs to a web-based application, which most do this, by the way. It rasterizes, creates a JPEG to work with the file more agile than what we're used to doing in Review. So when I was doing this workflow the other day, I was just like, it's crazy. You make markups, but they're not actually markups on the PDF as a PDF to get data-centric. So being aware of that, and that's where I was going with this, when we were going with the note, I can type in hello. This note's embedded, and the reason why I was going with that is that you can click this, and then we'll open the note, and there you are. But in similar method, you can actually embed additional data. So if I wanted to go through and add a file to this, I'm going to go through and add a foundation detail open attachment. This is a Revit file embedded on the PDF. Let's save this out as my desktop. example attached. And there we are. So there is the file. The reason why I wanted to save it out as is I wanted to see that file size after I attached it. You know, we're looking at 1 meg. It's not bad for a Revit file being embedded on the PDF in a full set. Okay. There is an option inside the markups themselves to save on into the document in the PDF. I don't know. Are you stating there is? Or I was looking, I didn't see it. Shortcuts, sync to AutoCAD. That's all I got. Oh, yeah, you're asking. Okay, yeah. I couldn't find it. You can sync markups to AutoCAD, and that's it. Oh, within the markups themselves. Publish. Nope, that's unpublishing. Copy. That's the right click. Edit. It's published. Transparent. Don't care about that. You can add the references. Nope. No saving. So again, we're in the digital world. Theoretically, in the future, this may not be an issue if you're using the same stream of solutions. But as of right now, right, if you make markups, you have to be aware and cognizant if you're going to download and send them to somebody else. So just a heads up. Yeah, I just checked. It's not within the markups themselves. Okay. So going back full circle. Perfect. Okay. Let's talk about embedding it. I know. It's not intuitive. What we were just talking about in the chat is when you make a markup, it's published, but then you're like, but is it? And then you like hit publish, and then now that's to everybody else, and then unpublished, so people can't see them. So just like you're saying, Ben, I'm questioning myself. So is it published now? Does everybody see them? Or unpublished means that it's not public. Published? Well, what if I hit download now? Let's see. Nope, still no. Yeah. Yeah, I would question myself every time I hit it. So, meaning published or not published. Yeah, I still can't find this setting that allows you to save them. So let's go back into review. Okay, let's go check my list. Talked about some of those simplistic markups. Okay, now when you're going through and making those markups, be aware that there is embedded data to them. So if I go through and select this polygon that I made a little bit earlier, you have some additional context. Now, typically when I'm going through and making metadata more so in the markups themselves, meaning additional metadata, typically what I'll do is I'll hit the drop down here and use this pane, but some people, I do too sometimes, uses the properties panel. Now there's embedded data. Now, typically your authorship is going to be done by your preferences, which we'll go through, and I believe it's under here, general user. That will be your defaulted author is your username. And then subject is up to you. So you can say, I don't know, we'll just do footing as an example here. Oops. Now, the subject of footing probably wouldn't be relative. You probably make a comment of something of some sort, but oops, as I started typing and not in the chat feature itself. So what you have here is your markups list down below, which we'll get in more detail in a further one, but there is metadata associated to them. So you can itemize by subject or by comments. So subject will be very important. Measurements do have a different one, which would be your, drawing a blank, your label. Thank you. As I remember. So yeah, you have your subject and then you have label for your measurements. Subject to be specific to the iteration of itemizing and instances of those. So we'll go through and talk about that. Ben, did you find something? How to download a PDF with markups in ACC Autodesk. I should probably look at this. I'm sorry, everybody. We all know our tangents. Okay, so if you have to hit export, that's not intuitive at all. So you can. Thank you. So you'd have to hit export. I wonder what that API is. So let's go through and look. Here we are. Okay, so let's go and open that in Review. What does that look like from a data-centric perspective? Okay, so when you hit export, it becomes a singular data, but you don't get any data points on the markups themselves. I mean, that's good that they're in here. So that's the workflow. You have to hit export. I'm wondering if it's a layer. Doesn't come in as a layer. Nope. So they're on it. There's no data behind them. But yeah, so you have to hit export. Thanks, Ben, for looking that up. So there is a workflow. If you are in ACC and you're leveraging the markups there, and you need to have them transferable, do not hit download. That doesn't work. And I'm going to make note, this key point, it says source file. So I'm assuming it's the original file uploaded. And that's what I was trying to do, is create a new version to maybe have it overwrite. But you use the export feature to get the markups on the PDF, which is why we can't directly grab the markups from PDF and PQ. They need to be exported first. Yep. Yeah, it all comes back full circle that Bluebeam's mantra has always been markups on a PDF as a PDF gives it that metadata. And that's what I was showing when you were over here, and you were saving things to the file itself as well, which is pretty cool. I'm not making any claims or talking about any inconsistencies on solutions. I'm trying to provide a solution to all of you. Safe harbor statement. Okay, so from here, as we go through and look, we have our customizability, and we talked a little bit about using the properties or using the other item over here. So you have author or subject, and then you have your comments. The reason being is when you go into your custom tool sets, which we'll be talking about very in depth here shortly, not today, but soon coming up in other episodes, you can save this and have metadata associated to it, and you can change your different modes from symbol to detail mode in your tool sets to look at that embedded data with it as well. We're moving into a data-centric environment. That's why we went back to basics, if you all remember. And if you're new here, welcome. We went back to basics because we were talking a lot about AI and where we're going and leveraging solutions in data-centric environments. But we were too far ahead, and we needed to bring back a foundation to everybody before we're talking about where we're going with the future, which I love talking about. But we can't talk about it if we don't have structured data. So we need to have a foundation to build off of using this solution and document review overall. Okay. Sorry. Thanks, Bob, for reminding me. I have the preferences set for markups dynamically set as default, but the setting for the line width for the tools like cloud or polygon or rectangle never sticks. However, the line is, yeah, so I don't know why it does that, Bob, but that's why I don't use it. So I never customize a markup and go through and change, like, we'll just change this to dash, we'll change the point density. I never do this workflow, right click and set as default. Reason being is I like to have my default presettings for showing, but what you would want to do in this case scenario, and that's probably why they don't let you modify a lot of it and set it as default. I don't know. That's probably why you're not having the consistencies, Bob. But what you're able to do is customize your markup the way you want it to look, and then just left click, hold, and drag it up into My Tools. And then in your My Tools area, you know the hotkey, which you can change the hotkeys to whichever tool set you want. Just don't do it for this instance at this moment, because now you can just hit 56, 55, and now you have that same markup. Okay, that's what you would want to do. So you wouldn't want to set as default. You would want to save it in your tools to be reused later on. And there's two different modes to these tools, Bob. There is the properties mode or the drawing mode. So you can just double click to change it. The drawing mode is the exact copy of the original one made. Double click again and change it into property mode. And now you can make it the properties of whatever you wanted it to be. Okay. Hopefully that answered your question. The question was, again, right clicking and setting as default. I always recommend never doing that. I do the other one. Let me make this one, and then let me make a new one, because I'll set this one as my new default. So we'll go here, line width doesn't set. So if I change this to this, right click, set as default, does it do it? Mine works. Is that what you were asking, Bob? Oh, the preferences. But you're talking about line width. Last line width tool. So if I change the line width here, does it stick here? Is that what you're asking, Bob? I'm just trying to confirm. Or the reuse tool. Are you talking about the reuse in the preferences? I don't think it works that way. It just reuses your last used markup. Okay, set default properties. No, I don't want to do that. Where's the reuse one? Is it in general? There it is. It's right here. Is this what you're talking about? But it doesn't. Are you talking about this one, Bob? Yeah. This is just the reuse the command or the whatever was last used. I don't know if it's doing it for me. Switch to a different tool and back. Okay. Not one of your tools, just the command. Oh, okay. I set that one as default, by the way. I should probably go back and do that. Hold on. Now let me use this one. And then go back to this one, Doug? I mean, Bob? To see if it saves this one. No. A circle or a line? Then go back. To what? This one? Pick it off the menu top. Okay, so I'm going to go to align. I did align. I went and made an arc. Oh, that wasn't an arc. Oh, stop share. My bad. Click the settings. Move over so we can get through this. Thank you. There's my arc. Change the width. Okay, changing the width. And then, oh, reuse that markup. And does it save it? It saved it, but then if I go to this one, go back, yeah, it's different for sure. Because it was that instance of that use of that markup. So like if I go here, oh, I need to change the width. Okay, let me go up. Okay, now I need to use arc. Oh, I want to go back to line. It's not going to remember this one. It's not going to remember that instance of me reusing the changed one. Because you're going back to the original one to remake a new markup when you initially change the preference setting of that original markup here, right? So if I change this to this, I can continue on with that. But if I go here, make an arc, and go back, it's the same default setting because I left the command, which I originally changed as a different thickness. Okay. Alrighty, now we got some amazing drawings over here. That's the purpose of that tool. So if you leave the command to go to a different markup and then go back to that original command, it's not going to remember the original command line weight that you were using in that instance. It's going to remember the original set as default because it left the command, refresh the cache, move to a different markup. Now, if you made changes to that markup and settings and you were still in the reuse mode, it would work. But then when you go back here, it's re-grabbing the original set default setting for the line. Okay. Moving on. So we made some changes, changed some preferences. Now let's talk about grouping. So you can go through and group markups. Some people typically do this for different ways they want to use review. So I'll go through to here and we're going to make it for a callout. So you can go through and make an example here of this and reuse it for number association. So I'll go through and use actually a polyline for this one. We'll go here. You can snap to content by the way, and then I'm going to hit enter. It just finished it for me. And then we'll use the lovely radial tool, which we talked a little bit about earlier, which is the Alt command, center, boom, snap. And there we are. I'll probably move it. But so now from here, I'm going to go and grab my wide selection here because we're going to drag these out so I can get some numbers association to them. I would probably, there we go. Okay. So now what I can go through and do is also use the text box here. So I can put a number 0 so that this can be modular later on. And I'll probably fix my text to center, center, there we are, and place this in the center here and probably center of text here. You could do like an align command, but we're not going to go through and do that. So I'm going to hit Control C, then Control V right here. And now I want to group these together. So you have to be aware when you're going through and making any customization to grouping, you can theoretically just wide select, but then you don't know what your last selection is, but you actually do, by the way. It's this one here. How do I know that? Because you can see the indicator showing a yellow versus a green. So your comments will essentially be attached to that tool or markup. In this instance, it is the polyline. So that's okay if I reassign comments to it to associate what the nomenclature is, like section. It wouldn't change the text values that are grouped into it as that, because text is based by a comment and that comment reflects visually. Whereas if I assign a text-based value to a line that has no value output to the screen, meaning text like text. You can also just go through and select your instances placed. And as you go through, it will show you what's going to be selected as the comment changer, which I wouldn't want my text to be that comment. So I'm going to go through and say this one, this one, this one, and then this one. And then I can right click and hit group. And it jumped to that one. But we're going to go and hit group. Now I can come in here and change this to 12. Of course, I didn't. Alt-Z, Control-Z. So we want to ungroup this. And that's because if you see here, this one should be out so that it can fit the amount of text that I'm probably going to have. And you probably don't want to have your data set just have a singular, you probably want to know, is it going to fit multiple? We'll move it up. Oh, hotkeys. Wanted you to click that. We'll do 12 again. Okay. I don't need to get it perfect. We'll move on. So there we go. So I'm going to go through and select my line data and then group. So now that we're in here, we can go through and change it, but then you can associate the overall information as I drop this down into my foundation detail example here. You have the ability to go through and change information associated to it. And I think it accidentally selected one of my comments, so we'll tape test. Yeah, so it actually associated to this one, which is what you don't want. And I'm assuming, if you all noticed, 12, when I went through and did my selection, select, we'll do select, 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 select. Come on, thank you. When I right-clicked, it selected the text. If I right-click out here, my last click, which is yellow, this one, first one, it will group and associate to the triangle. So now I can go through and do drag and drop into here. We'll do section. And you could probably do like a comment of scale. I think it's 1/8. That way you know it scales if you were going to do scaling ones. But there you are. So now I can go through and change this to 0. It has that new comment that's 1/8 and it's a section. You don't have to worry about the comment changing. I can change this to 0 and we're good to go. And I'd probably make sure those are center, but anyways. So grouping and group order is important, especially when you're going through and making modular systems like this. Same thing when you're going through and creating a count. Theoretically, though, you could have made it a count with a text in a circle around it so that you don't have to initiate that change of it, but basically same thing in concept when you're going through and making other custom markups. So grouping is important. There's also the ability to realign within a markup itself. So if I wanted to get a couple of text here, this is essentially if you're making custom markups, by the way. So I'll do Alt-Z and then duplicate here. So we'll copy, we'll paste. And if you wanted to align these to this one overall, I think it's this way. There you go. You can right click and you can do alignment and you could do center, or you can align vertically or horizontally. You can just distribute these depending on how you want those markups to be aligned. And you just have those options to go through and do that. But see, it went back to this original markup that it was aligning it around. I want you to align it to this one. It's the right click. I think it is. It will change that drop selection to it. So if I right click over here to do the align vertical, there we go. Then just stack them. Okay. So there are some commands that you can go through and use the align command. Right click and use the alignment. I use this a lot when I was creating dashboards. So if you guys go to this, we have a couple minutes here. You use a lot when you're creating those dashboards. Where's ATG? Oh, that's the images to create the dashboards. We'll close out of here. We'll close out of here. We'll close out of here. I was using it to make this and to align text to those areas. So again, when you're customizing different things and making review work more effectively for you so that it's centered on the page, I just align them to the overall page, which was not actually the page, it was the markup. I made an outline markup here that you can barely see intentionally. All right, are you making the Deathly Hallows markup? Yes. Okay, perfect. So hopefully I answered all of your questions today. As always, I appreciate every single one of you. Next week, what we will be talking about, let me grab my list. Next week, what we'll be talking about is a tool chest. So we are going to go more in depth. We're going to build share tool sets. We're going to lock the properties and how do we save them to the profiles. So we've already gone through the setup. Feel free to go back and check that one out. We went through navigations. We went through number 3 today, which is the markups. As always, I appreciate every single one of you. In this episode or this podcast wouldn't be what it is if it weren't for all of you joining every single week. And I look forward to seeing all of you next week. As always, thank you, and I'll see you then.
Hey there, thanks for tuning in. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe and check out some of the other content on our channel.